Friends, have you ever stood in a quiet field and wondered if the ground beneath your feet holds secrets from 1,000 years ago? Did you know that, long before skyscrapers and highways, Native Americans built massive earth mounds, some taller than a 6-story building, using nothing but their hands, baskets, and pure determination? Today, we're diving into one of North America's greatest mysteries. How did Native Americans build these incredible earth mounds and structures, and why did they do it? Let's set the scene. Picture North America thousands of years before Columbus ever set sail. The land is wild, covered in thick forests, winding rivers, and endless prairies. There are no cities, no roads, and no written records. But scattered across this vast landscape, from the Mississippi Valley to the Ohio River, and even down to Florida, are giant mounds of earth. Some shaped like animals, others like pyramids, and some as simple, towering hills. The oldest of these mounds date back nearly 5,000 years. That's older than the Roman Colosseum, older than the Great Wall of China, and even older than the pyramids of Giza. The most famous of these sites is Cahokia, near present-day St. Louis, Missouri. At its peak, Cahokia was home to as many as 20,000 people, making it larger than London at the same time. But Cahokia is just one of hundreds of mound sites. There's Serpent Mound in Ohio, a giant snake-shaped earthwork that stretches over 1,300 feet. There's Poverty Point in Louisiana, with its massive concentric ridges and mounds. And there are countless smaller mounds, some hidden in forests, others in plain sight. Often mistaken for natural hills, what's truly mind-blowing is that these mounds were built without metal tools, without wheels, and without draft animals. Just people working together, moving millions of baskets of earth, one load at a time. So, why did they do it? How did they organize such massive projects? And what secrets do these ancient earthworks still hold? Let's rewind to a time when the first European explorers stumbled upon these mounds. Imagine their shock. They saw these massive earthworks and couldn't believe that the native people they met, who lived in small villages, could have built them. Some even claimed the mounds were the work of a lost race, a vanished civilization. This idea stuck for centuries, fueling wild theories and even leading to the destruction of many mounds as treasure hunters dug for gold and artifacts. But the real story is far more fascinating and far more human. Archaeologists began to dig, not for treasure, but for answers. What they found changed everything. Beneath the layers of earth, they uncovered clues, ancient tools, pottery, bones, and even the remains of wooden buildings. Radiocarbon dating revealed the true age of the mounds. Suddenly, the story of the mound builders was no longer a mystery. It was a story of ingenuity, community, and survival. But there's still a puzzle. How did people, without modern technology, organize and build such massive structures? What drove them to spend generations piling up earth, basket by basket? And what did these mounds mean to the people who built them? Let's walk through the story step by step. The first mound builders, Archaic period, 3,500 to 1,000 BCE. Our journey begins nearly 5,000 years ago at a place called Watson Break in Louisiana. Here, ancient people built a series of low, circular mounds, long before the rise of the Maya or the Inca. These early builders were hunter-gatherers, not farmers. They moved with the seasons, following game and wild plants. But for reasons we still don't fully understand, they came together to build. Imagine the scene. Families gathering at the edge of a river, carrying baskets woven from reeds. They dig up earth with sticks and shells, filling each basket, then hauling it to the mound site. It's slow, backbreaking work. But over years, maybe even centuries, the mounds grow, layer by layer. The rise of the mound builders. Poverty Point, 1700 to 1100 BC. Fast forward to Poverty Point, a site that would become one of the largest and most complex earthworks in North America. Here, people built 6 massive ridges, shaped like a giant bullseye, along with several large mounds. The largest mound, called Mound A, is 72 feet tall and covers more than 7 acres. How did they do it? Archaeologists believe it took thousands of workers, moving more than 1 million cubic yards of earth, all by hand. They used simple tools, digging sticks, stone hoes, and baskets. There were no blueprints, but the layout is precise, aligned with the sun and stars. See. The Hopewell culture, artistry and trade, 200 BCE, 500 CE. Next, we move to the Hopewell culture in the Ohio River Valley. These people built elaborate mounds, some shaped like animals, birds, bears, and the famous Serpent Mound. The Hopewell were master artists and traders. Artifacts found in their mounds include copper from the Great Lakes, shells from the Gulf Coast, and obsidian from the Rocky Mountains. Building these mounds was a community effort. People gathered for ceremonies, feasts, and burials. The mounds were more than just piles of dirt. They were sacred spaces, connecting the living with their ancestors and the spirit world. The Mississippian culture, cities of earth, 800 to 1600 CE. Finally, we reach the height of mound building, the Mississippian culture. At Cahokia, builders created Monk's Mound, the largest earthwork in the Americas. It stands 100 feet tall and covers 14 acres, bigger than the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Cahokia was a city with neighborhoods, plazas, and wooden temples. The people here were farmers, growing corn, beans, and squash. They built their mounds for leaders, ceremonies, and burials. The work was organized, with teams of laborers, planners, and leaders. It took generations to complete. Let's pause for a moment and imagine the people behind these mounds. Not just the leaders or the planners, but the everyday men, women, and children who carried basket after basket of earth. Picture a young mother, her hands rough from digging, working alongside her family. Or an elder, sharing stories by the fire, explaining why the mound must rise higher, why the work matters. For these communities, building a mound wasn't just a job. It was a way to honor their ancestors, to connect with the spirits, and to leave something lasting for future generations. Every handful of dirt was a promise that their people would be remembered. There were moments of joy too. Imagine the celebrations when a mound was finished. Feasts, music, dancing, and stories that echoed across the fields. Children running up the slopes, elders watching the sunset from the top, feeling the wind and the weight of history. But there was hardship as well. The work was grueling. Summers were hot, winters cold. Sometimes, storms would wash away weeks of effort. There were disagreements, setbacks, and losses. Yet, the people kept building year after year, generation after generation. And then, there's the mystery. Why did they stop? What happened to the mound builders? Some say disease, brought by outsiders, swept through their villages. Others point to climate change, wars, or the collapse of trade networks. The truth is, we may never know the full story. But the mounds remain, a silent testament to their hopes, their struggles, and their dreams. When European settlers arrived, they saw the mounds but didn't understand them. Many were destroyed, plowed under for farms, dug up for treasure, or simply forgotten. In the 1800s, wild theories spread. Some claimed the mounds were built by Vikings or even by people from Atlantis. The real builders, the Native Americans, were ignored, their achievements erased from history books. But slowly, the truth began to emerge. Archaeologists, native leaders, and local communities started to fight for the mounds. Laws were passed to protect them. Sites like Cahokia, Serpent Mound, and Poverty Point became national treasures, places where people could learn, remember, and honor the past. Today, some Native American tribes are reclaiming their history. They visit the mounds, hold ceremonies, and teach their children about the builders. For many, the mounds are sacred ground, a link to ancestors, a place of healing, and a symbol of survival. And there are still discoveries being made. New technology, like ground-penetrating radar and drone mapping, is revealing hidden mounds and lost villages. Each find adds another piece to the puzzle, another chapter to the story. So, what can we learn from the story of the Earth Mounds? First, we learn about the power of community. These mounds weren't built by kings or pharaohs, but by ordinary people working together. They remind us that, with enough determination, even the biggest dreams can be built one basket at a time. Second, we learn about respect for the land, for our ancestors, and for each other. The mound builders lived in harmony with nature. They honored those who came before and thought about those who would come after. And finally, we learn about the importance of remembering. For too long, the story of the mounds was forgotten, buried, under myths and misunderstandings. But now, we have a chance to listen, to learn, and to honor the real history of this land. Next time you see a quiet hill in a field or a strange rise in the woods, remember, it might be more than just a mound. It might be a message from the past, a story of hope, struggle, and the power of people working together. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And remember, history is all around us, just waiting to be discovered.